some of that, but I think also people discredit maybe what we saw at Utah and Oregon State and some of the programs that already played 21 and 12 personnel. I believe in a format that is winning football and what kind of players you need to win football games, and that'll definitely matter at the end of the year. So we want to recruit size, we want to recruit speed, and it's not just because of the conference that we're in.
As a quick follow-up, in an era where guys may not stay 4 years or 5 years like they used to, is there more of an emphasis to recruit size earlier as opposed to recruiting a guy that might be able to put on size over the course of time?
I will say that the way that recruiting has turned, it's probably made it where projections are something you would do less. And, when it comes to a recruiting standpoint, those guys that were projections before now may become like portal guys as opposed to guys that you think that can develop pretty quick.
What will your offense look like?
It should be very exciting. Yeah, I'm excited to see what Dylan does. I'm impressed with his knowledge and ability to pick up what we do. It's certainly different than what he's done before. Part of our job as coaches is to figure out what Dylan does best, and I think you figure that out through reps. What plays is he most comfortable with? Who does he feel great about targeting? What can he audible? We were able to give Bo a whole lot of the reins to this offense where he's able to change plays. Those are some things that Dylan hasn't done as much that I think he's really excited to do, and we're excited to see him do.
How much of this talk about what's in your NIL bank account do you think stems from insecurity from other places?
Yeah, I think generally when somebody doesn't win in recruiting, it's easy to throw out an excuse that doesn't really fit their narrative, right? And I think it's easy to say the low-hanging fruit is, well, it didn't work out for us. They must have beat me because of it. We lose recruiting battles, and what we do is we say, okay, why did we lose? What do they have this? And you don't really worry about who you don't get, right? You worry about the ones you do get. But I can't speak to somebody else's thoughts or preconceived notions. I don't know that, but I'm not really worried about it.
Coach, Terrence and Jeffrey just said that when it comes to the expectations and kind of the outside noise, they kind of block it out. Is that something that you install in them, or they kind of do that on their own?
Yeah, we kind of have a theme in our program called FIBU, and it really, that's what it means, right? It means don't worry about what everybody else thinks, right? We're focused on the people in our room and what our expectations are for our own team.
Dan, you traveled to the Big House this year. You played against Michigan when you were at Georgia. You were at the national championship game. What are kind of your expectations for a game like that?
Yeah, they're a phenomenal program. I know Sharon's done an unbelievable job. Obviously, they've built something over time there that has sustaining power. I got an opportunity to compete against them in the Orange Bowl when I was at Georgia, and I haven't actually been to Ann Arbor, to see that. So that'll be a fun experience, a fun venue for us, but certainly a team worthy of competing against.
Sorry to stay in the state, but I guess what's your impression of Jonathan Smith as a coach, having gone against him? Just staples of what do you expect to see?
Yeah, I think Jonathan does an unbelievable job of developing a team. He's been a part of a lot of cultures where they had to grow a team, and I know that he'll be able to do some of those same things at Michigan State. I think he's authentic. He is who he is. He's not trying to pretend to be somebody else. You certainly appreciate that, and he's, at the end of the day, he's just a good person that's going to get the best out of his situation and the guys that he has there.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
what changed over the last year? We're just shy of a year ago, the move to the Big Ten being official on the recruiting trail, where a year ago certain schools could have used that against you. But for the last year, you've been able to use that and say everything's level, and now that you're here, how has the last 51 weeks allowed you to change?
Yeah, when you have teams try to poke holes into what's not good in a situation, there's a lot of things that's hard to poke holes in when it comes to Oregon. Well, once we had clarity about our conference and the direction that we're headed, I think that solidified a lot of things for our future. You didn't have to talk about the what ifs, you just talk about the reality, right, where we're headed. It also allowed us to recruit in different regions of the country that we haven't necessarily touched yet, but now will be a little bit more of our footprint.
What recruiting battles among teams in this conference outside of the LA schools? You're already doing that, but how have those changed over the last year as a result?
Just really same answer.
Is there any part of the Pac-12 miss?
Yeah, I mean, there was certainly some fun moments in that league. I think you just saw the best version of the Pac-12 this past year. You look at the draft, you see that. You look at the seasons some of these teams had, you'll see that. There's a lot of fun when it came to that. But college football has probably never been more exciting than it is right now, and I'm glad that it's really clear where we're headed and what we get to be a part of.
What did you learn during your time in the SEC about not just the recruiting part, but how to operate a championship program on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I mean, it started really with my time in Coach Saban and seeing that there's a blueprint, right? And then going with Coach Smart and seeing how that blueprint can adapt, right? And it can adjust to your team, what's important for the place you're at. So being able to pull from those, two places on what organization looks like, what's a daily schedule look like, that certainly has helped me in my career here.
Is there a difference really, I mean, mindset-wise of building a good SEC team as opposed to building an elite college football team like Ohio State or an Alabama.
Tim, you're hammering what I've been saying, man.
Yeah.
Just build a great team. It doesn't matter what conference you're in. Build a great team, because to get at the end of the year, you need a great team.
Yeah.
And it does. They throw those conferences out at the end of the year when it matters, right? Yeah. So that's our focus. At Oregon, we've been trying to build a great team, regardless of conference. You need to be strong in the trenches. You need to have great players outside. You need to have great quarterback play. You got to play solid defense. Like, all those things matter, and that's what our intention's been.
And one of the quick, Dylan Gabriel, when you get a guy like that, is it like getting a guy who is in doctorate school or something, and you understand, I mean, there's some things you don't have to teach him, some things you do. How do you approach that?
Yeah, I'd say he's more like high-level masters,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But yeah, he has an experience. I think if you look at the best quarterbacks in college football last year, you see guys that had a lot of experience. Dylan has that, right? So it gives him an opportunity, a leg up, to maybe understand this term might have been called something different where he was at before, but he can translate it really quick and know how he's going to read that.
With Dante behind him, obviously he was starting at UCLA last year, and obviously with you guys, what were the conversations of bringing him in along with Dylan Gabriel, and how's he been doing?
Yeah, Dante came here with really clear expectations of how can he become the best player he can possibly be. I think he's been really satisfied with his growth. I think he has an awareness and a realization, too, of looking around college football and seeing a lot of guys that were 5th, 6th years COVID seniors last year and saying those are the guys that perform the best. It's not about getting thrown in the fire. It's about being ready when you do. And when you're open and honest with your players about, hey, I've got high expectations for Dante as well. But that's part of the development and what that's going to look like. And we can't predict the future. He might be a guy that we have to lean on this year and be able to use.
You mentioned how, right, you lose a recruiting battle right now, the low-hanging fruit NIL.
Yeah.
At the same time, how do you embrace that, right? Because just because of the nature of the sport, you can't embrace it and make it clear that there will be good opportunities at Oregon if you do land in Eugene.
Yeah, I think there's truth to that. I think, again, like I said, any team that's operating at a high level right now has great opportunities, right? And that's something that if you'd be silly not to embrace what exists there, our affiliation with the programs around our university, what make us so special. If that exists, you have to be, to not see that, to not see what exists at our Oregon and see what Sabrina Nescu's been able to do in the, WNBA, or Kayvon Thibodeau's done with the Giants, and being affiliated with Oregon, it helped them. Right, it helped them be able to accomplish some of those goals.
What's been your impressions of Ohio State going against them on the recruiting trail?
Yeah, they're relentless. They do a great job. I think they do a good job of identifying talent early. Do a great job of getting guys on campus. So they've done a great job there.
Dan, a couple of scheduling related questions. Just you want to talk about it. With the Washington game and the move to the conference, that putting at the end as opposed to Oregon State now moving up. Do you like that? Would you prefer to keep Oregon State at the end and Washington mid-season like it had been for 100 and some odd years?
Yeah, I'm really indifferent in just because it's not something I control.
And then you're the only team in the league who has to play 8 straight weeks. And in terms of, you can't change it, but we're talking about competitive equity across the conference and the double bye season that your schedule is the way it is. How did you feel about it when you saw that you were the only one to have?
Yeah, again, it's not something I can control. So getting upset about it wouldn't do anything for me. Great opportunity for us to prove what kind of team we are.
To your point about relationships, how do you make a kid from Georgia, Florida, etc. feel like team Southern hospitality way up more?
Yeah, just be authentic, be who you are, and be diligent about that process. Be engaged, spend the time necessary. You're not going to get to know somebody through one phone call, right? It might be a FaceTime, it might be a Zoom, right? It might be an interaction on campus. It's coming to see them. When you get an opportunity to be on the road as a coach. So trying to take advantage of all those things and add those things up.
What does your gut tell you about how special this team might be?
I think it's too early to know, right? It feels like I just kind of ate the meal and we got to see how it settles. I feel really good about this team. I think I've told people that this is as talented a team as we've had, here at Oregon, but becoming a team is a different piece of that. And I'm definitely excited about the direction that we're headed. Feel good with our progress over the summer. I feel like we have some really good leaders on the team, but it still has to come together. It's still a little early.
How much film have you watched? I think you mentioned summer scouting.
Yeah.
Big Ten opponents, and what do you see when you watch these?
Some impressive teams, right? I think there's phenomenal coaches in our league. There's obviously some phenomenal players. You talk about the amount of guys drafted out of this conference last year. But you see some teams that were built to last, which is exciting. There's going to be some tough scheme challenges. And then there's some things that we don't know yet that we're going to find out in the middle of the year that we have to be ready to adapt to.
Then, did you realize, or did Dylan make it very clear to you when he entered the portal, he wanted to make a decision very quickly?
Yeah, I think it was clear early that he didn't want to have a prolonged process.
And because Ohio State was interested, but they were not prepared to do it immediately because they wanted to see how Devin Crowder do, blah, blah, blah. How glad are you that maybe you didn't have to go toe-to-toe and he wanted a quick decision and that made it easier?
I think it's a happy marriage because I think at the end of the day, I think Dylan knew where he hoped he could end up as well. So I don't know, what it would have meant for other teams. I don't necessarily care what their situation was, but at the end of the day, I think Dylan wanted to be at Oregon, and we certainly wanted him here with us.
He said he felt instant alignment with you and Will. How did you achieve that so quickly?
Again, there was a little bit of being familiar with each other from my time before at Georgia and those conversations. And then, again, I could hop on the road early in the process to be able to go see him, quickly and touch base with him. We did that immediately. As soon as we were able to, we did that. Those phone calls, those conversations, being able to get to know each other, you attack that quick.
Dan, what makes him special?
Ohio State, I mean, you were talking about there with you guys have some recruiting battles. You guys are two teams expected to be at the top, but it's a game that's already being talked about, the game in October. Does it feel like there's an opportunity to kind of grow a bit of a rivalry there, being two of the premier programs in the same conference now?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a little early to know that, but certainly you get excited about playing in premier games when you're in this role.
Coach, you've competed in a lot of games or a lot of big venues. You get to add the big house to that list this year. Just talk about your impressions of Michigan's program and that place.
Yeah, obviously a phenomenal team. There's a reason they, were able to win so many games last year, and they've done a great job building a program there. It's got a storied history. Should be one that we're really pumped to be a part of.
I think you guys can say that they've been mentored by the greatest coach of all time, and the guy that's running the team that's won two of the last 7 national championships. I don't know how often you reference them in everyday conversation with players, but how much does it help you to have those reference points? I don't know what I'm talking about here, but these two guys are pretty
good. Luckily I don't think I have to do that too often, and I always kind of like talking about the future as opposed to the past, but for me it's certainly been beneficial. I always talk about quality of experience over quantity. I'm certainly sitting in this seat in an earlier position maybe than others, but I was able to have some great quality of experience because of guys like that, in the past.
But you ever hear Nick Saban coming out of your mouth or Kirby Smart?
Yeah, I certainly feel those moments. Yeah, I certainly feel those moments.
What makes Dylan Daniel special?
His leadership, the way he's came in and attack quickly, recognizing he has to connect with players.
Dan, real quick, when you did see Kirby's comments last week, was that just like a big chuckle for you?
Yeah, it was more like a moderate chuckle. It was like a moderate chuckle.
Dan, how confident are you that Dylan was talking about earlier in the summer, ironing out the details with Poncho, getting the snaps down? Because even in the spring game, there were a couple that were off, and Poncho's been up front.
Yeah, same thing. Looking into last year, if you came into our practices, you'd see Jackson Powers Johnson went through a similar deal. It takes reps, it takes repetition. I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to handle that.
How do
you learn to manage your intensity as a young coach, relatively young coach, who's head coach? You seem pretty composed, pretty unflappable here in this moment. We've seen that fire from you. Whether it's on social media, on camera, on TV. Like, what have you done to be able to learn to manage that?
Yeah, I don't know that I have a great answer for that. I do think on the field that your players play with the same passion and energy that you put out there, and that's important for them to be able to see. But you also have to level set, and when does it actually, improve the performance, or what's the result that you want, and if there's a benefit from responding certain ways. And for me, I do a lot of risk assessment. Like when does that make sense, right? There are going to be moments where fire and passion are necessary, and then there's moments where that just creates chaos and it's not beneficial. So I guess I'm always thinking of the end game.
What's your general level of intensity you think around the team on a daily basis?
You'd have to ask them. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's flat very often.
About Dylan's leadership, for someone who's coming in as a newcomer, even as a quarterback, is it impressive the way he's kind of been able to emerge as a leader?
Yeah, and I think what I've told some other people today is Dylan's leadership. What makes it unique is I think he realized I don't need to come in here and start yelling at guys because the route's not deep enough or you're not running something right. He came in and he said, I'm going to attack relationships. I'm going to build relationships with the guys on our team. He's done a good job of that, and then that'll probably lead into some more vocal leadership, a little bit more demanding on the field.
Dan, Oregon's been a national recruiter for a long time, and you've coached all over the country. Do you think that makes you better equipped to enter a league like this? It's very national now.
Yeah, I think certainly my experience, being in a place that is a brand. I think all those things add up and create an opportunity for success for us.
Why was getting more vocal leadership out of Terrence something that you guys want from him? What have you seen from him so far since the initiative?
Yeah, I think the comfortable thing in football is to lead by example, right? And Terrence has always been a guy that's done a phenomenal job of leading by example, but the reality is you need some guys that are vocal leaders on your team, and you're never going to see those hands shoot up, right? So I think our guys have to see that, understand how that impacts our team, and we have that now. We've created a lot of that this summer.
What are your expectations for Justin Jacobs to help you?
Yeah, Justin, has had a great offseason. He's dealt with being, banged up from time to time for us early, and now seeing a healthy version of him, I think is going to be really exciting. I know he has some familiarity with his conference as well, so being able to go into some of these venues and places that he's been before, understanding the type of play that exists here, I think will be a benefit for him.
What do you think Dobson will be like October 12th?
Should be exciting. Yeah, in fact, I know it'll be exciting.
What's unique about that stadium playing there?
Well, the fans, anything, it's about the people, right? And we have passionate people, passionate fans, but there's some great traditions there, whether it's shout after the third quarter or, just the intensity that our fans operate with. I think all those things add up.
You talked earlier about building a team to win in the trenches late in the season. Was Oregon built that way when you got there, or was that a shift you had to make?
I think in places, I think they had a strong offensive line when I first got there. I think there were some moments of growth for the defensive line, and I think that we're a lot closer to that now, what that picture looks like.
Who came up with the phrase, the grass is damn green in Union?
Me, I guess, but I certainly am not
I
don't think I'm getting paid for it.
It's on t-shirts.
Somebody's getting paid for it.
Take two more guys.
How much do you think relative to you as a coach actually potentially display?
I think genuine people are genuine people, right? And if you have that and you actually have an interest in knowing what other people think, what makes them tick, how they operate, then that doesn't really matter how old you are. Certainly, I can probably relate to a NBA YoungBoy song a little bit better than maybe some of these other guys, right? But that's not going to be the difference in a win or a loss for us, as long as you're authentic when it comes to relationships.
You talk about the national brand and recruiting nationally. How difficult is it to maintain a base of where you want to recruit from, specifically the West Coast, while also touching areas that are loaded with high school talent, Texas, Florida, things like that?
Yeah, like anything, it takes work, right? It takes work, and the great thing about the guys that we are recruiting right now, a lot of people grew up and this was their dream school. It's become a school that has created prominence because of that stage that it's on. So you'd be surprised when you walk into a home in New Jersey, or you walk into a home in Miami or the DMV or wherever that might be, St. Louis, Missouri, that there is an affinity for our school. And then it's about that process of quickly identifying, okay, how realistic is this, and does it fit? Do they fit us, and do we fit them?
Where does that affinity come from?
Last one, guys.
Where does that affinity come from, do you think, from these kids that are now 18, 19?
Yeah, I just think that growing up around the sport and seeing guys like Marcus Mariota or Penei Sewell, or the guys that they've been able to see on a national stage, Michael James, DeAnthony Thomas, I think that exposure that's been created, through the university, I think has made that a possibility.
Thanks, good.
Thank you.